Welcome to the Florida Bar Podcast, where we highlight the latest trends in law office and law practice management to help you run your law firm. Brought to you by the Florida Bar's Practice Resource Institute. You're listening to Legal Talk Network.
Hello, and welcome to the Florida Bar Podcast, brought to you by the Practice Resource Institute on Legal Talk Network. This is Christine Bilbrey, recording from the 2017 Annual Bar Convention in Boca Raton, Florida. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very special guest this morning. Joining me is the Chief Justice of the Florida Supreme Court, Justice Labarga. You have been on the court since 1996, is that correct?
I joined the circuit, the trial court bench in 1996.
Okay.
And I joined the Florida Supreme Court in 2009. And then before that, I was on the 4th District Court of Appeals, where I served for 1 day.
1 day?
1 day.
Is that a record?
I think so.
Excellent. That's very impressive. We're talking to Justice Labarga today. He's going to be doing the keynote speech tomorrow here at the convention. And we're curious to know, what is the focus of your keynote?
Well, the focus is going to be how things can get done when leaders of government talk to each other. For example, this year we just finished a legislative session not too long ago. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning of the session, there were a number of proposed bills that would have been really not very good for the Florida legislature. And the leadership of our branch, the judicial branch, and the leadership in the legislature, the Speaker of the House, Richard Corcoran, and the President of the Senate, Joe Negron, we started actually speaking to each other. And at the end of the day, all those bills pretty much were gone. They were resolved in ways that were satisfactory to both sides. And on top of that, the judges got a 10% raise this year, something we have not gotten in the last 12 or 14 years.
Right.
So I firmly believe that the open lines of communication between the branches of government helped accomplish that. And then, of course, our lines of communication with the governor's office and in convincing him not to veto those raises and any other bills that were beneficial. That also obviously was instrumental. So I think that when we actually talk to each other, even though we may have differences in political views, there's always a middle ground. There's always a point where we can reach some type of agreement and get things done. So I think that's important. I think this session is an important lesson for all government, that we need to talk with each other and not talk at each other, but speak with each other and try and come to some kind of agreeable ground.
And I'm glad that you're working for that cooperation. Do you think that they're going to address term limits again for the judiciary? Will that come up again in future sessions?
I'm sure it will. The next session begins in January this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that it will show itself again. And I don't know how much traction it will have. There are 3 ways it can be on the ballot. One, it can be an amendment proposed by the legislature, and that was tried this last time. It did not make it. And that could happen. It could be brought back again this next session. The second way is the Constitution Revision Commission may place it on the ballot for people to consider. And the third way, it could be a citizens' initiative. That would cost a lot of money. But there are 3 ways in which the proposal for term limits for appellate judges could end up on the ballot for people to vote for. So until all the I think until 2018, we're not going to know. It may still be showing its face over and over again.
Mm-hmm. And I know that this has been proposed several times. Is there any other state that you're aware of that has instituted term limits for the Supreme Court or the appellate courts?
No, not that I know of. There may be 1 or 2, I don't know, but none. If there were any, I think I would know. Mm-hmm. No, this would have been like a first in Florida. And Florida also has the what we call constitutional senility, which means the Constitution requires judges to retire at age 70. And there's a movement to move that age limit to 75 because people are living much longer today and are staying healthier today. And I know many judges who had to retire who could have gone on for another 10 years. And you're talking about someone who's been on the bench, for a long time, who's got all this experience, and we really don't want to lose them. But yeah, they have to go. And they'll come back as senior judges, and they're still doing just the same great job. So we're hoping that that's also something that is going to be looked at.
And I completely agree, because law is one of those professions that I know that here in Florida that we have attorneys that are actively practicing into their 90s. If you stay sharp and you're serving your clients. So absolutely, we would want the judges to remain on the bench.
Absolutely, and again, that's something that we hope that it will have to be a constitutional amendment, because the Constitution requires judges to retire at age 70. So the voters will have to vote on that. And as you know, in Florida, any change to the Constitution will require 60% approval by the voters, and that's a pretty high number,
right?
To reach.
And so I know that we're also going to have a Constitutional Revision Commission. Is it a seminar that's going on? Like, are they just going to be addressing some of the things that have already been proposed for them, or do you know what they're going to cover?
Well, at this stage of the Constitutional Revision Commission, they're still working on the process and the procedures they're going to follow. They haven't gotten down yet to what proposals they're going to actually consider to be on the ballot. So just so the listeners understand, every 20 years, our Constitution requires that there be a revision or a commission to look into changes to our constitution so it can keep up with the times of the moment. So this year it's the 20th year since we had one, so we're having one this year. The way it works is there are 37 members to that commission. Number one, the Attorney General is automatically appointed to the commission. So Attorney General Bondi will be on the commission.
Okay.
Then the governor gets to make 15 appointments, 15. And he can select whoever he wants. Then the Speaker of the House gets to make 9 appointments, and the President of the Senate gets to make 9 appointments. And the Florida Judiciary, the Chief Justice, gets to make 3. That sounds fair, doesn't it?
Very balanced.
We're balanced. So I already chosen the 3, and the CRC, the commission, is in place. And they have been meeting, and what they're doing now is they're holding like town hall type meetings where they go from one place in the state of Florida to another, and have people, just citizens who wish to show up, express their concerns about what should be or should not be on the Constitution. So they've been traveling around the state, and from what I hear, they've been getting an earful from people about government in general and things that need to be changed and so on and on. So the commission is in that stage right now where they're basically traveling around the state, listening to citizens and their concerns. Once that stage ends, then they will actually have committees that are going to look into different areas of the Constitution that they feel may need changes. And that's when we're going to start seeing what amendments may be proposed to be on the ballot. So all they do is the commission can decide, I believe by 60% of the vote of the commission, what could go on the ballot. And once an amendment, a constitutional amendment or revision to the Constitution goes on the ballot, then the voters in the election of 2018 in November will decide by 60% of the votes whether it should go on there or not. So they have to sell it to the voters by 60%.
And so because it happens every 20 years, I know there's been discussion about just establishing the rules. Are they supposed to? Is there a precedent for the rules, or do they get to make them up every 20 years?
Well, there's precedent for the rules. We did this 20 years ago, and then 20 years before that, and 20 years before that. So there are rules in place. But again, 20 years is a long time. Things change. So I'm sure that some of those rules need to be updated to today's standards or whatever. So I'm sure the commission will look into that, and they will decide what the rules will be that they will follow.
And I recently met the general counsel for the CRC, who had been Governor Scott's general counsel.
Right.
What is his role in this? Is he just advising them on the constitutionality of the proposals, or?
I would think he would be the one they would turn to see whether anything they're proposing is constitutional. I would think he's the go-to person for that. Just like when he was general counsel to the governor, the governor would go to him to see whether anything he wanted to do would meet constitutional standards.
Right.
So it's the same thing. He's like a lawyer for the commission, and I know him very well. Very nice guy, and he's doing a great job.
Good. Well, I could talk to you about this all day, but I know that you have you want a little rest before you get to your keynote tomorrow. But tell our listeners, if they want to come see you at the keynote, where you're going to be located, what time that is happening tomorrow.
Well, it will be the judicial luncheon that we have every year.
Okay.
Where all judges are invited, and it will be here at the Boca Raton Hotel, and I think it's their main hall. It will be at 12 noon, and it's usually packed.
I can imagine
it's
so.
usually packed, and it's one of the
ticketed
features,
events.
For this convention.
Okay.
And so I'm looking forward to that, and I invite anyone who wishes to come and listen. It's not just to me, obviously. There will be other speakers as well, and it's usually well attended. A lot of judges, especially locally, like the convention this year is being held here in Boca Raton, so you can bet that many of the Palm Beach County judiciary will be here because they can travel. And usually we have it every other year in Orlando. So usually in Orlando, the Ninth Circuit, that judiciary
turns out.
But I think a lot of the appellate judges are here. I know the entire Supreme Court is here.
Excellent.
And so we usually have a lot of fun while we're here. We get to meet with lawyers. They book us really solid. Like the convention starts today, but I actually been here since Monday, and we had a retreat that I scheduled for yesterday to deal with the future of the bar. So we had a whole bunch of lawyers and judges from around the state, and we talked about the future of the bar and that kind of thing. So I had to prepare for that. So that was all day yesterday. And then tomorrow I'll be booked from 9 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, going to the Historical Society meetings, going to the judicial luncheon, and then judging the Supreme Court judges, the final moot court competition for law schools. And that's always a lot of fun. And then after that, we have a question and answer period where the Supreme Court answers questions for the bar, and they usually is well attended. And some really good questions are asked. And then after that, we have, of course, the Florida Bar Foundation dinner, where we all attend that every year. And after that, if I'm still standing, I will go to a few receptions they may have around the place.
They are getting their money's worth from you, keeping you super busy. But I love how productive these conferences are, and it's a beautiful location. I'm very much looking forward to your keynote tomorrow, and I want to thank you for coming to speak to us. And this has been another edition of the Florida Bar Podcast, brought to you by the Practice Resource Institute on Legal Talk Network. I want to thank Justice Labarga for joining us. If you liked what you heard today, please find and rate us in iTunes. I'm Christine Bilbrey. Until next time, thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Florida Bar Podcast, brought to you by the Florida Bar's Practice Resource Institute and produced by the broadcast professionals at Legal Talk Network. If you'd like more information about today's show, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com, subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find the Florida Bar, the Florida Bar Practice Resource Institute, and Legal Talk Network on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Or download the free app from Legal Talk Network in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.